The last major hangover I had was the first time I went to SEMA
Yeah.
2 years ago. That was a very bad one.
Well, that's the only place you can actually legally get Four Loko anymore, so
I really miss that caffeinated Four Loko.
yeah.
New for 96 with your hosts, Kevin McCauley and Chris Nguyen.
Well, isn't there like a dumbed down version now? Like three
Yeah, so
logos?
you still can get Four Loko, but they've lowered the alcohol percentage and they took out the caffeine because it used to be that it was an energy drink with alcohol in it, and now it's just like fizzy flavored water with
That's
alcohol in
bullshit.
it.
Well, that's
That's some bullshit.
stupid.
So you have to like put Red Bull in with your Four Loko if you want the caffeine. But it used to be that like one or two Red Bulls or one or two Four Locos and you're good.
That's I want to be the
Like
man
that, it's like
who,
that was anything more than that, and it was you
yeah.
were having a wild fucking night.
I would like
So
to.
as you all know, I only have like 4 jokes that I repeat.
Yeah.
But Ferrari GTC 4 Loco is still
It's a
preferred
good one.
preferred naming.
Yeah,
I'll tweet that 6 times a year, and Steve Ewing gives me a courtesy like, which is very, very nice of him.
Well, I think what needs to happen is either I mean, in real life would be preferred, but in Forza, someone needs to make a Four Loco livery for
Oh
that
yeah,
car.
yeah, that would be a
That would be
real
really
inside
good.
joke, which naturally I'm all about.
yeah, of course.
Should we introduce our guest?
Yeah, so we have a guest on our show tonight. He prefers to be called Daniel, despite my show notes clearly showing that his name is Dan in underline. But Daniel
Can't be
Golson,
changed.
yeah, can't be changed. Daniel Golson is our guest tonight. Welcome. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me on.
Thanks for being on.
Yeah,
We our listeners may know you from CNET Roadshow and formerly Car and Driver with the
Correct.
ampersand.
And from my social media accounts, which I
Oh,
mean,
we'll
they
get
say
there.
Daniel on all of them, not Dan. So still not sure how that came about, but no,
We'll
it's okay.
we'll check the records.
we'll see.
We've got a fact checker.
Our
so
intern
we'll
is
look into that.
rarely wrong about these things. So yes, you are the social media editor for Roadshow. So it's by CNET, and I noticed it's very small. So are you supposed to whisper that part? Roadshow by CNET.
I honestly don't really know. It had started as CNET on cars, as just like a part of the CNET website, and it
Hmm.
had been that for a super long time. Like my coworker Antoine, he's been at CNET for I think it's like at least a decade, something like that.
Yeah.
But then a few years ago, they rebranded it as its own kind of subset of the site.
Hmm.
So if you go on our website, it's very hard to find CNET branding anywhere. Like it looks like a standalone site, even
Hmm.
though the URL is cnet.com/roadshow. So it's kind of just a way to make it very clear that this is like its own kind of separate
Okay.
thing.
Is it like, because CNET back in the day, I mean, that's where I might go to look for like, I mean, I know this is simplifying it extremely, but like, because, I know I get obsessed about certain things, but not like about printers. And so I would go and look for like a listicle of the best printers for
And then you print it out and take it to Pump
2002.
USA.
Yeah. I currently don't own a printer, so I actually need you to print something later for me. I have perused Roadshow before, but is there like a connection between like how the content is structured? Is it similar at all? Or is it like it really is separate? Like it has its own format?
I mean, it really is separate. We do have like do some kind of listicle-y things. Um, and one thing that you can tell when you read like a roadshow news story or review or something is we are very focused on the tech side of things, like much more than I would say any of like the legacy magazines or websites
Hmm.
really focus on tech. That
Yeah.
can be autonomous stuff or electric cars or any kind of alternative fuels. Like we cover so much of the like futuristic mobility space in general.
Yeah.
Um, and that definitely is helped by the connection that we have to CNET. Like that for sure helps us get access to some of those things that other brands don't.
Do you
Um,
do you have a when you described that, I immediately was thinking like infotainment and UI in might be legacy conventional cars. Do you have more of a
yeah,
focus on
that
that, you'd
too.
say, than other
Yeah, so
publications?
we definitely focus a lot on infotainment and all kinds of tech in cars. And actually, like when we do our full scored reviews, the four categories that we do is performance, design, features, and media. And so media
Oh,
is like the infotainment and audio systems as a whole. And so it's definitely a big factor. And it's something that I notice and this is something that I noticed when I was working at Car and Driver is like you would write a review of a new car and it would be like a full instrumented test or whatever. And obviously one thing that Car and Driver focuses on a lot is the testing that they do, where it's like, here's our actual performance numbers and things like that. So I understand the focus on that side of things, but even for stories when you didn't have that, or at other sites or magazines, not just Car and Driver, is I think a lot of auto enthusiasts like to just like push the tech stuff under the rug and be like, well, that's not what we care about. We care about the driving.
Hmm.
And it's like, well, you can have a sports car like a 911 and talk about how good it is to drive, and at the same time be critiquing the infotainment system, because it is such an important part of new cars. Every single new car on sale has a screen in it. You
Right.
have to, because of the backup camera laws,
Yeah.
and just because of the way that tech has evolved in general.
And
And so I think it's just kind of silly to not have tech features be a big part of a review.
yeah, and they're not phoning it in either. Like these are like they invest in the technology, and it has to be
Oh
good
yeah.
because eventually, especially because so many systems now are starting to be tied into the infotainment screen itself, and it just part of the car's experience is through that screen essentially.
But I totally get the impulse if you have a new car every week, like if you aren't making a conscious effort to look at that UI and see how it works, it's so easy to be like I'm just going to connect my phone and just kind of not really deal with this. You know what I mean? Or it's like you go
Right.
into a car and CarPlay is pretty much the same in a lot of cars. Like I'm just going to, I'm not going to interact with this car very much because there's other things to focus on. Like
Yeah.
you have to kind of force yourself to do that, which is good.
I think it's funny you say that, because I actually disagree, especially about the CarPlay part. Yeah, CarPlay looks the same in every car,
Right.
no matter the infotainment system, but the way that you use it can be very, very different.
Hmm.
Like if a car has a touchscreen, okay, great, it works exactly like it does in your phone, you know? But for cars where you don't have a touchscreen or there's another redundant control, CarPlay can be absolutely atrocious to use. So one
Oh,
example is Roadshow. We have a long-term Acura TLX, the brand
Mm.
new one, which is a fantastic car. It uses Acura's touchpad infotainment system. I can't remember exactly the name of it, but
gotcha. It's our first gotcha question is what is the Acura infotainment
I
question?
I think it's like True Touch or something like that. I can't remember. But it uses this little pad on the center console, and for the native Acura infotainment system, it does this clever thing where it's like where you're touching on the pad is where on the screen the cursor is.
Hmm.
So you're
Mhm.
not just swiping, you're actually like moving your finger on the pad where you would be touching the screen. And I think that that's much better than what Lexus does. Lexus also has a little touchpad, but it doesn't work as well.
Right.
So for the Acura system, I actually found it pretty easy to use, and like I got used to it really quickly. But when you have CarPlay on, it doesn't do that. It just works
Oh,
as like a swipey thing.
Oh,
So when
weird.
you have CarPlay on, you're using the touchpad in a totally different way than you are when you're using the native system.
oh, that
And
Oh,
sounds
that
like a
is just
nightmare.
like
So it's like
so stupid and
like an
frustrating.
Apple
Yeah.
TV remote where you're just kind of swiping for a direction.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, is it
And so
also,
that makes it way more annoying to use.
are there more than one screen in the center stack in the new
No, now there's just one.
okay. I was
And
imagining
on the Acura, like the Apple TV, you pick it up and you always pick it up upside down.
yep. Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that makes sense. Although, do you think is it an analog at all to, you mentioned Lexus. I haven't used their new touchpad,
It's
but
awful.
the mouse
It's
thing.
old, right? They've had various ones concurrently.
Yeah,
Like they've
it's
had a mouse thing and they've got the like joystick thing.
yeah, the newer ones, it's not even a little joystick, it's like a little pad that you swipe on with your finger. Which is just it's
Is
just
that
so
the one
annoying,
that's
and I don't even think I don't even think it looks nice. Like
yeah.
if we're gonna have a system that's annoying to use, like at least make it pretty, like the
Yeah.
Mazda system, but it's not pretty. At least now with like the facelifted LS and the facelifted RX and the RC2, I think the screen is a touch screen now. It didn't used to be.
Yeah.
So at
Mhm.
least you can like reach over and touch it, which
Yeah.
is nice when you get so frustrated by the little pad.
And Mazda deliberately makes it not work as a touchscreen when you're driving.
Well, and now it's just not a touchscreen at all anymore
Oh.
with
Oh,
the new
really?
3 and the CX30. Yeah, because they pushed the screen. You couldn't even really reach it if you wanted to anyway.
Oh,
But they
right,
pushed the
right.
screen way far away, and it's a totally new system for these new models, and it uses a little rotary dial. And like it's pretty good. It's just not great.
Yeah,
But it looks really nice at least.
yeah.
Uh,
And like it's interesting too, like the new GMC Hummer EV, as we were saying about how these systems, it's like a really big deal to put one of these together, and it's really tough, especially if these automakers doing it in-house.
Mm.
The new Hummer, the the software powering the infotainment system is the Epic Games Unreal Engine, which powers Fortnite,
Oh
Oh,
wow.
really?
which
Oh,
is really
interesting.
wild. We did a story about that, and so that's something where it's like we write about this and it's on Roadshow,
Yeah.
but
Hmm.
that's a very CNET story because it's video games and Fortnite and tech and all that kind of stuff, and so they're able to
Absolutely.
A
promote it and push
connection.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
exactly.
Very cool. Very
And
cool.
then now too, we have companies like Volvo and Polestar, where
Mm.
the Polestar 2 system, it's the Android Automotive, which is different than Android Auto, which is like the CarPlay equivalent.
Yeah.
Android Automotive is Android built this like baseline operating system uh, for infotainment systems, and
Mm.
then is selling it out to car companies that are able to like reskin and customize it how they want. But so the Polestar 2, it's like Android Automotive powered by Google, and it has all these Google services built in. And Polestar just went in and like designed the skins how they wanted, and it's absolutely fantastic. I think it's easily in like my top three infotainment systems. It's so well done, and it basically allows these car companies to not have to spend so much insane like time and money in developing a system themselves that like might not even be great when they can just
Yeah.
say, hey, Google has experience building this kind of stuff anyway, let's just let them do it and then we make it look nice.
So
Hmm.
it's only in Polestar. It's not in Volvos.
It's in the new XC40 Recharge, the electric one too.
Okay.
But it's going to start being in pretty much all of their cars going forward.
Okay.
That's cool. I'll
Yeah,
have to
that is cool.
check that out.
Yeah.
And I can't remember. I
We
think there's one other company that has already been announced that's going to use Android Automotive, but I can't remember what it is off the top of my head.
okay.
But there's definitely going to be a few companies that are going to start using that.
You don't currently have a car in LA, right? A
No,
personal
I do
car.
not.
And you
I
have
do
enough
not.
consistent press cars to just kind of fill that void, I'm sure. Um, do you think if you found a daily driver, and I know you're kind of searching for one now, would you have an updated infotainment system of some kind, or would you have a period correct whatever the car might be?
So that's something that I have thought about for the previous cars that I've owned, but in the past three cars that I've owned, actually, I've gotten just like a single DIN head unit so I can plug my iPhone in because
Yeah,
at the very least, I want to be able to stream music from my phone.
yeah,
Um, if I have a car where the dashboard is set up in a way that it could accommodate a like double DIN Apple CarPlay touchscreen,
hmm,
I would absolutely take that. I don't
yeah,
care like how pretty the buttons can look on an older car. Like
yeah,
I would want that functionality just because in so many old cars, like the old radios and stuff isn't probably going to work anyway, at least with the budget I'm looking at.
yeah.
So I don't really care about that kind of thing,
I
especially with so many of them, they look pretty clean. Or you can get ones now where there are like single din head units where a screen like slides out and
yeah.
goes up in front of whatever is there on the dashboard. I would think
Hmm.
about one of those too.
Uh,
Yeah.
I I I tend to go out of my way to keep everything as stock looking as possible, but there have been times where I've never owned a car with CarPlay, and I don't know, like there are just like times where I'm like, I really wish like I had modern technology in this car.
Well, you both have classic 911s, and now Porsche Classic offers that single DIN head unit with the little touchscreen that runs CarPlay on it, and
They
it's designed
do. It
Single
is
it's
pixel.
designed
single
for
pixel.
Porsche.
Yeah. Well, I have like so I bought a Blaupunkt from Lithuania that has Bluetooth built into it, so that at least has Bluetooth for audio and terribly for phone, like phone audio, and it looks fine. And I don't know that I'll ever change it to that. If I ever did get a 996 though, I did notice that Porsche Classic is now making 996 double DIN head units that look like the ones that were in 997s, I guess. Um, but for the Land Cruiser, it has a like tiny nav screen and the old school pressure sensitive touch screen.
I think if you have a car that has a crappy old navigation screen, like none of those are nice to use or even relevant with with the nav because like the maps can be so outdated and you have to, I don't know, use a CD or something to update it. So I think if you've got something like that, like why not just rip it out and update it? It's not going to work. No, it's that's not an enticing feature to
Yeah.
somebody that would buy it
This one
after
is
you, I don't think.
this one is hard because it is like fully like it's integrated into the dash design, and you would have to get like a Euro market trim kit to make it work with an outside system.
Gotcha.
But I did use the nav once, and yes, I did get lost because the roads no longer existed. Um,
Yeah.
So So Daniel, what are you looking at for cars? You talked about your price range, but we don't know what you're interested in.
Yeah, so I have been ever since I knew, like I decided to move to LA last summer when I got this job at Roadshow, and since then I knew when I was living in Michigan, I had a 1994 Volvo 940 Turbo wagon that was my. I mean, I don't really say daily driver because I was always in press cars, so I wasn't even really driving it that often. But that was my own personal car,
Hmm.
and I knew that I wasn't going to bring it out here, partially because I thought I could get more money for selling it in Michigan, and I didn't really want to bring it out here because I wasn't super in love with it anyway. But the real reason I didn't bring it to LA was because I had straight piped it and it would not pass California emissions.
Yeah.
And so I was like, why don't I sell it to some idiot in Michigan who wants a loud, low, stiff Volvo like
And
I did?
it
Yeah.
sold like in an instant, didn't it?
Oh yeah, the day that I put the ad up, I got contacted by this kid who was like, I'm starting college in the fall. I really want an old Volvo. I want yours. He came and drove it. He loved it and he bought it and he
That's
still
so
loves
awesome.
it.
That's
So
fantastic.
I'm very very happy with who the car went to because I was like, it's not gonna. It's a very hard sell because it,
Hmm.
as I said, it was lowered on really stiff springs. A lot of stuff wasn't working. It was straight piped, but like the body was good and mechanically it was good. It also had like 230,000 miles on it. So I was like, it's gonna take a special kind of person to buy this car.
Yeah.
Hmm.
But I found the right one. But so
Yeah.
since then, I was like, well, what do I want to have when I'm in LA? I don't really need something because I have press cars. So that means that I can buy something that's either impractical or unreliable or both. I don't really need something that I need to be able to drive. Um, so, and I've been thinking like, okay,
You have
well, I really
parking, or
want
is it
to.
going to be street parked?
So I have one parking spot in a gated underground garage underneath my building, which
Oh,
is very,
awesome.
very nice. But that is like my press
I
car
was gonna
parking
say,
spot.
yeah.
I mean, I'm in a pretty nice part of West Hollywood. Like, I'm not nervous about parking expensive cars on the street. Like, literally, somebody that lives one block down from me street parks his Rolls Royce Wraith every
Ha.
day,
Nice.
and that car is fine. So I was like, okay, I think I'll be fine.
Yeah.
But if I buy my own car, it would probably just get parked on the street all the time,
Yeah. So it
which
has to be something
fine.
that you don't care might get bumper dings or something.
Yeah, exactly. And I was like, well, I want to get something that's like very LA. Like
Yeah.
I want a car that really suits the new city that I'm living in.
Yeah.
And top of my list is I want an E38 7 Series, the same gen that James Bond had in
It's
Tomorrow Never Dies.
Yeah.
Tomorrow Never Dies.
and
Yeah.
you don't want the popular Shorty 40. You want the big
No, I don't
boy
give a fuck
50
about that.
IL.
Like that's such like a boring choice to be like, oh, you want the
Yeah.
shorty, you want the
Yeah,
M
that's
Sport
This
street
is-
short
parking.
wheelbase,
Street
you
parking. The
wanna
short wheelbase is playing on easy mode.
Yeah.
You gotta get the long wheelbase to street park.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't care about it being a sporty car. Like, why would you buy that car if you want it to be sporty? No,
Yeah.
What
I
about
want
You're-
what
I want
about
a long wheelbase one.
what about a first gen X6? Aren't those like probably worthless now?
I would love a first gen X6. They are too expensive, and also I am too scared of that twin turbo V8. And
No, I
don't really want something that new anyway.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was going to say, because your criteria for finding cars is not like, you don't broadcast it. And so it's kind of fun watching people respond to your suggestions for cars, because the immediate car man thing to do is to lecture you on maintenance and like just general reliability and whatnot.
We support all of your bad ideas.
I know, yes, exactly.
Well, that's what's kind
Wholeheartedly.
of nice is that like the reliability doesn't really matter because
Yeah.
I don't need a car at all.
Yeah.
So as long as it's able to start up whenever I want it to, like that's the only thing I really need.
That's a pretty
Uh,
big ask, but yes.
Yeah, I was going to say,
That's
yeah.
pretty big. I mean, well,
But you're
that's-
also be
that's
putting
why I
very few.
wanna-
You're not gonna be putting miles on it, really.
Yeah, and that's why I want a V8, not a V12. I would want a 740 IL.
I
Just
like
'cause
how it's a considered
V12
choice.
a V12 is also kind of a scary thought. Yeah, exactly. It's a
Yeah.
considered choice.
No.
You don't want
Um,
the extra like 30 or
but it's
25
so-
horsepower. It's such a
it's-
small gain for this
But
V12.
it's
like
so
such a nightmare.
opulent. That extra 10 in the badge is so
I
opulent.
know it is pretty
Yeah.
opulent, but yeah. So like, also, if I'm buying my own car, at the absolute maximum, I'll put like 5,000 miles a year on it, probably. Like
Mhm.
maybe I would drive it up and back for car week or something like that, like
Yeah.
a trip like that a couple times a year. But yeah, I mean, mostly it would just be to just drive to Malibu Cars and Coffee every Sunday and come home.
So any Volkswagen W engine is out of the question. If you want it to start predictably.
Not out of the question because of the engine, out of the question because I don't want a Volkswagen.
True, fair
Smart.
enough.
Smart
Yeah.
man.
Especially not I don't like that. Like as cool as the W8 is, I don't like that generation Passat. I don't think
Yeah.
they look very good.
Yeah.
I mean, I would love a
You don't
Phaeton.
like
Like that'd be awesome, but
the maintenance of a Porsche with the driving experience of like a low
Oh,
tier
it would
Audi.
be maintenance
no,
beyond
no,
a
thank you.
Porsche. Like it would be like even Volkswagen techs can't figure it out. But and then you were looking.
The risk reward is so bad proposition for that
Something
car.
that's a little out of my budget, but that I would love is a pre-facelift first gen Cayenne Turbo.
Yeah.
Because the more that I
Yeah.
see those early Cayennes, I think that car is aging really,
I
really
do
well.
too.
I
Yeah.
think the Turbo especially looks so good. I would
Yeah.
love one of those, but that's just a little too pricey.
And that
Yeah.
I actually put that in the same category as like a 996 Turbo, where it seems like that is still like really raw, really fast.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
like really fast by today's standards,
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
sure.
And I do like that it's a little bit divisive now too, but I think it's over the hump of you'd be ahead of the curve as
Yeah,
far as
this
like
is
appreciation of how those cars look.
They are eligible for Porsche Classic support now. So it's just a
Ooh.
matter of time. Porsche Classic
Yeah.
will start supporting the first gen Cayenne now.
I mean, I love it. That car's almost 10. That car's almost 20 years old. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's almost 20 years old, which is insane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was
So-
there was I could have made a very bad decision earlier this spring, but so I moved out here in August and I found this car because I mean we all love to just send Craigslist links to other car friends.
Yeah.
I have like 3 or 4 different group threads with different people that I'm sending the exact same cars to all
Yeah.
the time. And there was one car I found on Los Angeles Craigslist that just captivated my attention so much so that I almost like wired money to somebody that lived here to go buy it sight unseen for me. There was a first gen BMW X5 4.8 IS with Dynon tuning and the factory wide body kit,
Yes.
I remember
which I had
this.
never seen in person before.
Yeah.
And it was being sold by some kind of shady Russian guy, but like the car was legit and he was legit. And I was thinking about it so hard and had been for sale for a really long time. And then even like hearing about the maintenance and stuff
Yeah.
did not
I
deter
was-
me because I was like, I don't care. I love this car. I
Yeah.
just ended up not doing it because I was like, it is stupid to buy a car before I even find an apartment. Like
Yeah.
that's probably a bad idea. But I mean, if that thing popped back up for sale tomorrow, I would go buy it.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean,
It's
I
just
applaud
so-
you for the
it's just
bravery
so
because I
fascinating.
want a 4.8 IS, like just even a normal one.
They're so cool.
They're really cool and they sound really good. But yeah, I like having owned many unreliable cars. Even that one maybe scares me just a little bit. But I encourage you to pursue this dream full force.
Well, and I think my thing with reliability too.
Okay.
I have personally killed 2 of the most notoriously unkillable engines in the entirety of automotive
oh my
history.
god.
Congrats.
And so I'm like, well, if that happens to me, then like, would a BMW V8 really be that bad? Like, probably not.
no.
Hard to say.
So growing up, when I started driving, my parents owned a 2004 Toyota Sienna, which was like the main car I first learned to drive on.
Yeah.
And then we also had a 2006 BMW X3, which my mom custom ordered from the factory, and we
Ooh.
still have. It's at I think 198,000 miles on it.
Okay.
Wow.
So my dad's trying to get it to last
Spartanburg
200 before
delivery?
he kills it. We did not do Spartanburg delivery. Also, my mom did not listen and get all the options that I
Ah.
said she should, and she regrets it still.
Oh
I
my
was like, Mom, you
goodness.
should have. I was like, there are times where we'd be driving at night, and she's like, man, these headlights really aren't that great. And I was like, okay, so you agree that we should have got the projector lights like I said.
You need to hold that above her as
I
much
know,
as you
I
can.
know.
Oh, I mean,
Was-
I've been doing that since
And
2005. So.
that gen has like the bad flip up nav, right? Or is that in the
well,
dash?
we didn't have that.
Oh,
We didn't order that. So actually, we have. It's a kind of an enthusiast spec. So it's a 2006. So it's after they did away with the black plastic bumpers.
Mhm.
And the options that we got, it's like this nice, like icy silvery blue over
Ooh, yeah.
the beige leatherette. We went for the leatherette because we have dogs, and we're like the leather would just
I
get
like
destroyed.
the leatherette. Yeah.
And
I like the
we
leatherette
have-
a lot.
Yeah, no nav, no premium package, but she got the nice looking wood trim. She got the cold weather pack, so it has the heated steering wheel and it has the panoramic sunroof. And so it's like a pretty stripper spec, but it's always been a fantastic car. I loved driving
You
that car,
had me
especially
at-
as like a 16-year-old.
Yeah.
It's just so good to drive.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You had me at heated steering wheel. It's the only thing I ever want in life, and I've never been able to get one. A car
Oh
with
my God,
one.
it's the best.
Yeah.
Especially like living in a really cold climate, heated steering wheel is the best, but there have even been days since I moved to LA where I have a press car with one and I turn it on and it's super nice.
It's so
So
nice.
where is your family? Like, where did you grow up?
I grew up in a small town outside Boston.
Oh, okay.
But
okay.
a year and a half ago, my parents moved to a very like just a small town in Maine. Now that me and my younger brother like are fully out of the house, so they're up in Maine now.
Oh, that's awesome. It's
And
beautiful up
so
there.
they still have the X3, but my mom currently has a 2019 Ram 1500 because she has a horse and has a horse training business, and so she needed something that was able to tow a horse trailer.
Yeah.
And so she was in 2013, she was one of the first people in New England to buy the at the time brand new Chevy Colorado, which she also custom ordered from the factory. And then she put a ton of miles on that thing, and then a couple years ago it was just not enough towing capacity with that V6 because I think the max towing is like 7,000, 7,700. And so she's like, I need a full size truck with a bigger engine.
Yeah.
And so she got the new gen Ram. She has a really nicely spec'd Laramie. And that thing, I think she's passed 50,000 miles already.
Yeah.
Wow.
Super span amount of time. So I'm really hoping that she, maybe, I don't know, 3 or 4 years from now when that needs to get replaced, I want her to get a Rivian.
Oh.
Because I think that would just be so perfect.
Yeah.
And then I'm pushing for my dad when the X3 finally dies in like 6 months or a year or so.
Yep.
I was like, you should get the Polestar 2. If you get the XC40 electric, that's fine. But I was like, it's got to be one of those two.
Oh, you're pushing them to go all electric.
Yeah, because I mean, for my dad especially, he works from home. Both of them really work from home. Like they never really have to go anywhere. The farthest my dad would ever have to go is from their house to the Boston airport and back, and round trip that's less than 150 miles.
Yeah.
So they have a nice heated garage. Like it would be so easy for them to even just have just one electric vehicle.
Yeah.
But I mean, it would depend on the towing with the trailer for my mom.
Yeah.
Well, maybe in like 5 years time, that'll be even better. And so it would, and then like with infrastructure changes too.
Yeah.
But I think
Yeah.
she could do it eventually with the way that EV pickups are going.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Even though we're in Texas, my like city brain was like thinking that she had to pick up because the horse went into the bed and stood there somehow. And I was like, yeah, of
Maybe
course
if it was
they-
a miniature horse.
Yeah,
But it's
a
a full
pony,
it's a
yeah,
full-size
yeah.
horse.
Full-size horse.
I was gonna
Wow,
say, I guess
think
it's,
of
you know,
next.
a pony could fit in the back of an X3. That makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah.
What is your press car you're currently driving?
I currently have the brand new Genesis G80.
Oh,
Which
yeah, I saw
is-
the picture of
yeah.
that.
Oh, yeah, that's
Yeah,
right.
so it's the 3.5 liter twin turbo V6, so the up trim powertrain.
Yep.
It's all-wheel drive and it's the fully loaded trim level.
Okay.
This one, I think it's like just under $69,000, which is a crazy deal for this car.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks fantastic. It's super smooth and comfy. The tech is like this infotainment system is absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
The interior is so nice. It's really quick. Yeah.
Yeah.
I really love
Actually,
it. And I've been looking forward to this for a long
I
time, so
need,
it's living up to my
like,
expectations.
your opinions on this, because even though it's not quite the GV80, that is what I'm pushing my parents to replace their aging RX 350.
They should do it.
And the thing is that like they would love to replace their cars. Like they're to the point where my dad has an HS 250H and my mom's RX.
How did you let that happen?
It was the first car with auto braking, and he had an incident, and we wanted him to have
And you had a
the
Prius at
safest
the
cars.
time, so
I
you
did have a
encouraged
Prius at the
this.
time. Yeah, it was all
You
fine.
encouraged it. You
That was a
encouraged it.
political statement,
You
but
encouraged
nevertheless,
you encouraged the HS250H.
yes. But
How do you always manage to be answering the questions that we ask our guests?
I don't know, but it doesn't matter. No, but here's the thing. So they hate all of current gen Lexus's fascias, even though they've grown on
Well, so they
me.
don't have the current RX.
No. This is the that's an '08, I think.
Oh, so your parents are some of because Lexus is very proud of the fact that the big majority of their legacy Lexus customers love how the current models look. So your
Weird.
family is some of the only people that don't like the
I guess
Predator
so.
front end.
Yeah, and I would even convince them to buy like a slightly older one with a slightly less aggressive fascia, but no deal. So
I think the RX is one of the most successful, like visually, implementations of the
Yeah.
fascia. I mean, I really have no
I
problem with
agree.
any of them, but
although to be
Not
fair,
the L though. The L, because it's not an actual it's not an actual long wheelbase. They just tacked however many inches on past the rear wheel.
Oh.
So that's why the
Oh.
L version like just looks so strange. Just
Oh,
'cause they
yeah.
just
I don't
added
know
on
if
to the
I've-
very
I
back.
That
don't
is
know if I've
bad.
seen it, but I'll look it up after this. Okay, well, so we have a bit of a lightning round of questions for you, of zingers, of gotcha questions.
Okay.
So we're gonna go through these. We're gonna go through these pretty quickly. Yeah. So okay, Cadillac CT6 is going out of production, sadly.
Has been out of production.
Yes. Say something nice about the CT6.
Looks great.
All right.
Looks great,
Fine.
and you could get the Blackwing V8, which I have heard is absolutely fantastic.
Oh, that's
Okay.
quick on the
Dodge.
draw.
Actually,
Daniel?
sorry, you could not get the. No, you could get the Blackwing V8. Yeah.
You
It's
could,
the
yeah.
CT5 and CT4 that are getting called Blackwing, but do not have the Blackwing engine.
Yeah.
That is right. Yeah. So before this show, we were poring over the Cadillac models that
I'm
both
very
of
sorry
us.
that you had to do
No,
that.
No, we're
Oh my
looking at this
God.
on
It
Wikipedia.
is
We're
so
looking.
hard.
We're going over these models that like we've never actually looked at before. So we're looking at the CT5 and the CT4 and trying to figure out how they relate to like the numbers that we kind of have understood.
Yeah.
And this is not even getting to the XT4 and XT5. And we were like thinking, oh, we could quiz Daniel. And I was like, Daniel would not only know, he would be disgusted that we don't know.
That is
Yeah.
true. Yeah.
So we
will
gave
say
up
I
on
had-
that.
Yeah, we gave up on
I
that.
had a CT4V earlier this year, and that was some.
So that's a
one of
refresh
the-
ATS.
That's an ATS-V.
No, it is not an ATS-V. It's the. It is basically a refreshed ATS. They did like chassis tweaks and stuff, but it uses the turbocharged 2.7-liter four-cylinder that the Silverado and Sierra also have.
Oh my
God,
God.
that is an
This-
amazing cat.
This is Riley. He's my boy.
Oh
He's-
my God.
He's the good boy.
A cat.
But yeah,
is
that
known-
car, I do not like that car at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there are so many brand new Cadillacs in Los Angeles. I thought that I was moving to LA to escape that kind of
I would think so. Yeah.
vehicle. But
Yeah.
there are like CT5s and XT6s everywhere. There's somebody that has a very nice house in Malibu on PCH. They have an XT6 that's lowered on aftermarket wheels.
No.
And there's just
Ugh.
something is wrong there.
Oh, I can't even picture an XT6 and I don't want to. Okay. All right. Lightning round. Dodge Journey. So the Dodge Journey is also ended production. This is my question for you. When and where did it debut? I'll give you a point for either if you can guess.
Oh, I mean, I don't fucking know.
Oh my goodness.
Um,
Let's just say it
I
has
told you. Gotcha.
very
Gotcha.
noble beginnings.
Okay,
Yeah.
but why would that be something that I would care about?
I don't know. I don't.
Why would that be something
Because
that
you
anybody
know
cares about?
everything.
You know everything. You know stuff. You know stuff that you don't care about.
Yeah, but that's like not even worth caring about.
Okay.
I think did it debut in 2010?
No.
New.
The first model year was 2009.
Oh, okay. So let's say it was the 2008 Chicago Auto Show.
Oh, that's where
Ooh.
you're wrong. It was. I wouldn't have made this question unless it was really fucking weird. 2007 Frankfurt.
Yeah.
Debuted as a Dodge there?
Yeah.
Yes.
They
That's weird, yeah.
hung
Isn't
their
that
hat
weird?
on that.
That's weird. Okay, so
That I believe is the last vehicle to be on sale in the US with a 4-speed automatic transmission.
I
It's the
believe
Dodge
you are
Journey.
correct. Yeah, I was hoping that there was a Daimler Chrysler connection to it, but it's all like it's all
Yeah.
the Mitsubishi side of the business.
Yeah.
That's where that comes from. Is the 200 Eclipse platform. Okay, so of all the Mercedes Benzes that you have driven this year, which
Yes.
one of them had the best 2-liter turbocharged inline 4?
It would be the CLA 45S shooting brake
Oh wow!
In
Cool.
Germany.
in Germany. Yeah.
Wow, that's a good answer.
But also,
That-
I think aside from that, there's only been one other Mercedes that has had a turbocharged 2-liter inline 4, which would be the
thought they all
GLA
did.
250.
Hmm.
No,
yeah,
they don't all have that. What are you talking about?
I think
the
the AMG
Maybach GLS has that.
it has 2 of those stacked.
Actually, that would be even more interesting than the 4-liter bi-turbo V8 that already exists. I think.
Yes.
That's what it
We
is.
agree with
powerful.
that, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Chris, do you have any?
Yeah, is the best Mercedes on sale right now a two-tone Maybach GLS 600?
No,
No. What is it?
no, it's the GLS 63.
My God. Okay.
I mean, okay, so that's not the best Mercedes, but I actually like the AMG more than I like the Maybach. As
Okay.
much as I love the Maybach,
Okay.
the AMG is just more fun to drive when you're the person driving it.
Then-
the Maybach's amazing.
Then
but the
related
AMG's awesome.
related question: is the worst Mercedes on sale right now a single-tone Maybach GLS 600?
Yes, because why would you? If you can afford the Maybach, you can afford the $16,000 two-tone paint job,
You want
or
the
$18,000, however much it
discreet
is.
presentation. I will
No,
say
but if you're buying a Maybach, why do you want to be discreet? You shouldn't be buying a Maybach.
That's true.
You also shouldn't be buying a Maybach if you're not spending whatever 5 grand on the 23-inch shiny wheels.
A
Because
question.
if you're saying like that's too flashy, don't
Yeah.
buy one.
So a question.
And actually, wait, can I
Yeah, no,
can
please.
I stop the lightning round for a second? Because this is
Please.
something that really grinds my gears
Yes.
Oh,
Oh
shit.
my God.
when it comes to
no.
other
Said-
automotive journalists.
Yeah.
I wish all my
Okay,
furniture was
please.
like my
This is
furniture
a
was.
breaking scoop.
Yeah.
I gotta take a swig of wine.
Please.
Ask one more question, then I'll get to it.
Okay. All right. My other question is, what electric car are you most looking forward to, and why is it not the EQC?
I don't think the EQC is ever gonna go on sale in America.
Whoa! Breaking
Okay,
news.
can I split that into two answers?
Yeah.
Because I'll give an answer for what has already been revealed and then what has not been revealed yet.
Ooh, that's delicious. Go for it.
I think for what has already been revealed that I haven't driven is the Taycan. I haven't gotten the chance to drive a Taycan yet, and I'm really, really looking forward to it because I have heard nothing but phenomenal things about that car. And in Los Angeles, they're absolutely everywhere.
Okay, wait.
I see at least half a dozen Taycans a
Wait.
day.
We got to come back to that. But what is your next part? Because we got to come back to the Taycan for a second.
Oh yeah. Then for the electric car that I'm most looking forward to that hasn't been revealed yet, there's a few. Mercedes EQS is really easy to answer because it's like the S class of electric cars, and it's going to be like their technological flagship, really wild. Very excited about that. I'm very excited about the electric Macan, which would be super, super cool.
Right.
And then a bunch of Hyundai Kia Genesis products.
Yeah,
We're
absolutely.
getting the pseudo Stinger replacing electric fastback crossover-y weird thing from Kia that'll be super cool. And then not only is Genesis getting a dedicated electric car that is kind of inspired by the Mint concept from
I'm
the New
familiar
York
with
Auto
the
Show
Mint.
last
Yeah.
year. It's going to have 4 doors, but it's going to look kind of like that. Genesis is doing fully electric versions of the new G80 and then the small GV70 crossover,
Okay.
which the GV70 crossover is the car I'm most looking forward to driving in 2021 period. So I'm very excited about those. But
That
back
is
to the
very cool.
Taycan.
Yeah.
Oh wait, no, I'm not ready to go back to the Taycan because I have to.
okay.
Chris answered his own question. I'm going to answer
did.
part of my own question. But one of my favorite things last year was shooting. I shot the Mint for Genesis at Pebble Beach last year. But my favorite set was like just shooting it. They like loaded it from this house, like loading it into like just a normal trailer. So seeing this Mint concept, this like thing that is not a real car, and they're like pushing it. There's all these people pushing it into a trailer in like a parking lot surrounded by real cars, and it's not a real car. And it was just like a really weird thing to shoot, and it was really cool. Anyway, we're gonna go back to the Taycan only because my question to you is, what is your ideal Taycan spec?
Ooh.
Well, so that is different for 2021 now that they have expanded the
Oh,
color
have
palette.
they? Is it on the configurator?
Interesting. Okay.
It's been on the configurator. I tweeted about it a while ago when it went up on the configurator.
Pardon me.
I am going to quickly open the configurator so I get the color name correctly because I don't have it memorized off the top of my head. But there is a new color. There's a
Okay.
bunch of new colors for 2021.
While you're
there's a
opening
really nice,
that-
it's already open. There's a really nice
all right.
coffee beige. You can get it in chalk now, which is a fantastic color.
The chalk
There's
is
a nice
good.
new blue. You can get it in mahogany
Daniel, did you know
metallic,
that-
which is a brown.
Did you know that in Europe chalk is called crayon?
I did know that, and I think
Because
it's silly.
Because I
Because
told
crayon,
you that.
there's different colors of crayon. Even in Europe, there's different colors of crayon.
Yeah, but I
right?
guess it's like because of the wrapper.
That doesn't make any sense.
Yes,
The
it
wrapper's
does.
different colors.
Wait,
No,
what
the
do you
wrapper
mean? Like the wrapper?
in Europe, the wrapper is this gray.
For every crayon
I couldn't
color?
imagine that they
Yes.
call it a crayon because
Okay, so
of the
that's the
paper.
crayon company's problem.
Yeah, it is.
I don't know
That's
about
weird.
this.
Okay.
Alright.
But this is not my spec. This is the correct spec
Yes.
for
Okay.
Taycan, aside from white, which just really looks good.
It does look good.
There's this
Iconic
new
color.
color called Frozen Berry Metallic, which is this kind of like
Uh,
lavendery, pinkish
Ooh.
metallic color.
Is that our friend?
It's rose gold.
Yeah.
It's not rose gold.
No,
Okay.
no, no, no.
I can't
It's
see- I'm
like
not looking at
a
it.
it's like
It's
a
like- it's like
pastelly
lilac. It's
blue.
Yeah, wait,
Yeah.
It's not blue. No,
Is-
that's Frozen Blue Metallic.
Oh, right.
This is Frozen Berry. I'm gonna send up you guys a picture because obviously
Oh dear God.
there's some disconnect here. But so you do the Frozen
Oh my
Berry.
goodness! I googled
Yeah,
a
did
picture.
you look it up?
Oh my
Yeah.
god, that's crazy.
Oh, wait,
Yeah,
now I have
that
to
is
see.
the correct color for this car. So
That
you
is
do
cool.
Oh.
you do Frozen
God.
Berry Metallic,
Yeah.
and then you get the Mission E design wheels with the color matching, so it like
Yeah,
hits the rim
yeah.
around the edge that's color matched. And
Yeah.
then on the interior, you can get a leather interior in Blackberry, which is basically a matching lilac purple
Yeah.
color.
Ooh.
And so you get that interior, and then you make sure that you get the neodyne interior accents, which are these like kind of anodized gold trim for things like the air vents and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
And then you do for the actual interior trim pieces, you do wood trim, you do the black brake calipers, you do uh, the rear logo and the headlights in like the glacier blue color that you can get.
I do like that.
And then I mean I could go even further, but
Yeah,
that's
that's
basic
that's
for
good.
a
a interesting spec. I went more subdued.
The Mission E wheels is, I think, critical because like
I
the
do think
Taycan,
that, yeah.
the Taycan can look like a Panamera in a sort of boring color, or it can look like a concept car.
That's
and
the
it
thing.
just depends
I
on
debate
what
that.
spec it is.
Yeah.
What's interesting about those wheels, especially now that I've seen a lot in person, is as standard, the edge around the rim of it is silver. You have to, so like for the reveal car that's white with the white wheels, that's the extra cost color matched wheel option.
Yeah.
Oh,
So I think when you have those in silver with a different body color, it doesn't look right because I think those wheels look best when they're matching.
Yeah.
Or you can get those wheels completely blacked out, or you can get them the whole thing in gold,
Yeah.
which also looks good because then you don't really have like the matching rims. It's just a good wheel design just in gold.
yeah,
But yeah, I mean that car, it just looks so good. It just looks so good.
it does.
And I
It does.
think in person, even in black, I don't think I would think it was a Panamera at first because it just looks like way more low slung and
But
It does have a
in
unique
traffic,
presence.
in traffic, it just kind of like in traffic with silver wheels and
At a
black,
glance.
it just kind of blends in
At a glance
with
and a very normal
little more,
spec,
yeah.
it does look like a Panorama.
Daniel,
Go on.
I was gonna say, not Taycan, but our friend got his PTS
Oh, yeah.
992, and you would appreciate the spec because he got the wood at our urging.
He got the wood.
did
interior.
he get the wood seat backs?
He got the wood
Yes.
seat back.
Yes.
It's racing
And-
green.
It's BRG exterior. I thought it was a gray interior, but it's agave green.
Yeah. So
interior.
it's green on green.
That's the correct way to spec a 992 is you do.
Yeah,
I mean, if you're not doing PTS, it's the
it is
Aventurine
PTS.
It is
green.
PTS.
It
You
is
can't get
PTS.
racing.
No.
Yeah.
No, but that's what I'm saying. I'm saying if you don't get PTS, if you're just looking at the configurator,
Yeah.
you do Aventurine green paint. Which is like the
Yes,
nice
I
kind of
love that
dark metallic green
color.
paint.
It's so good.
You do the gold wheels. You do the agave green interior with the chalk stitching for a little bit of contrast, and then you can get the chalk seat belts to match. And then you do the full wood trim, wood seat backs, all that kind of stuff. No, but I just want to spec cars for rich people.
Yeah.
You should do that.
So many of them do it wrong.
yeah, triple black cab.
Yeah. But one
Yes.
thing that is very exciting, I don't know if I've even told you guys, I think I might have told you guys this, but it's a good story to tell for your podcast anyway. So my friend who you guys also know, Jeff Jablansky, who does PR for Jaguar Land Rover,
Indeed.
Joffrey.
yeah, a few months, or this is, I don't know, like 8 months ago or something, he texted me and said, if you were to spec an F-Type, how would you spec it?
He
I
texted
was
me
like,
that too.
Well, he didn't listen to you, but he listened to me.
He might have listened. He might have listened to me.
Okay, so I sent him 6 different F-Type specs. I sent
Jesus.
him a coupe and a convertible for each engine.
Oh
and
wait,
all
no.
6 were
He asked
different.
me about F pace.
Ah, there you go.
F
I've given him
Pace.
my input on F-Pace too. I didn't send specs, but I've told him what I think. So they
He
ended
wanted to go with Windows Screen of Death blue, and I said no, don't do that.
he and I talked about how they're going to do bright orange for the launch specs for the facelift.
Mm.
Yeah, but they're building the F-types that I created.
That's
Which is very
wonderful.
exciting.
That's
Yeah.
fantastic.
One
So
of
for
them
that-
one of them is like beige gold with full red leather interior and a red convertible top.
Ooh,
Okay,
that's cool.
interesting.
So for
Very
the
excited about
F
that.
pace, the color, even the SVR, the colors were very limited, and I recommended the like matte British Racing green.
Yeah, I like that.
I like that. It looks really cool on that because there already has been like a bright Windows blue screen of death blue SVR F pace in like the LA fleet. Like we don't need another one of those.
Well, and
is-
that was the launch color too.
Is
I don't like that.
So there's an SVR F-Pace, which I didn't know about. Is it markedly different somehow?
It's a little like more aggressive and scoopy with a big engine.
All right.
Yeah, that engine is so good. It's
Yeah.
so good. I mean, it's the same like 550 horsepower supercharged V8 that
Yeah.
the F-Type has.
Yeah,
It's just
yeah.
in this SUV. And the F-Pace SVR is so good. The Land Rover Range Rover Velar SV Autobiography Dynamic Edition, which is that same engine detuned a bit, that car is not, I had one of those earlier this year. That car is not as enticing because it's not rowdy enough, but it's also not luxurious enough.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
I
it's
can
a
see
weird
that.
place
I
to
love
be,
that.
yeah.
I am the biggest Velar fan.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just tries to be a little too subtle where like it's loud, but it's not loud enough. But
Yeah.
then when you want it to be comfy, it's not comfy enough. Whereas the F-Pace is like, we're going to be sporty and that's it.
Yeah.
And then you also have the Range Rover Sport SVR, which is the
Mhm.
same engine but the full tune of it,
Yeah.
and that does a much better job of balancing
Oh,
the
yeah.
luxuriousness and the
That would
sportiness
be
than the
my
Velar
pick.
does.
Yeah.
Can-
That's
The
we-
Velar looks great, but
Yeah.
the F Pace is a
Yeah.
lot more fun.
Well, so okay,
Do
we
you
wanted.
have any more lightning questions, or was that the end of the lightning questions?
That was pretty much it. I know you wanted to talk about supercars, and we're now at hour 19, but
Okay, I want to talk about supercars, and actually, what I'm about to say is a good segue into
Perfect.
supercars.
Yeah.
But so
Perfect.
you were talking about the Maybach and the flashiness and things like that. And as I said, something that really grinds my gears about
Yeah.
other automotive journalists and people that write about cars or do YouTube videos about cars is when they get a test car that is extravagant or expensive or flashy or is even in a bright color, and then they write about or talk about how much they hate the attention that the car got. I think that is an absolutely fucking stupid thing to say in a car review because not, I mean, I don't even care if they're lying or not, saying that they don't like the attention. If you don't like it, that's fine, but that is the point of buying that car to other people. And it's stupid to say that you didn't enjoy how much attention this car got because especially when it's something like, oh yeah, I had this lime matte green Lamborghini Aventador SVJ Roadster and it got so much attention and all these people taking pictures of it and asking me questions about it and I hated all the attention that it got.
like that shouldn't factor in the review. If you
That
hated
shouldn't
it,
factor in the review.
it
That's-
shouldn't
that
be
is
a part
true.
of that.
And honestly, that should be a positive thing about that
Yeah.
car because that's the whole fucking point of getting a bright
Right.
green Lamborghini with the wing on the back is
Yeah.
that you want people to see you. And like
Certainly not the
obviously,
dynamics.
obviously I've had this opinion for a long time, but
Yeah.
especially like moving to Los Angeles and seeing how people actually live with and use flashy, expensive cars, the whole point is because you want to buy something because you like how it makes you feel and you want to show off.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's just such a weird thing to complain about. Like when I had that Maybach, so the Maybach spec that I had, it wasn't even that crazy. It had the big 23-inch chrome wheels, which are flashy and has all this chrome trim, but like it was two-tone where it was black on the bottom and kind of like subtle-ish gold on the top, and the interior was black. So like that's honestly one of the most tame Maybach specs you could possibly get. And I had all these people in my like Instagram and Twitter mentions talking about how they hate how flashy it was and they wouldn't like how much attention it got. And it's like, why are you bringing this up?
You
It's
weren't
such a
there. You didn't
interesting
see how
thing to
much attention
say.
it got. Yeah.
And then I'm sitting in the car being like, I've literally never, I don't think I've ever driven or even been a passenger in a car that got as much attention as that Maybach GLS did in Los Angeles over the course of a week. Like
Yeah.
I've been a passenger in Lamborghinis and Ferraris and like all in even recently a bright blue McLaren 765 LT.
Yeah.
The Maybach by far got the most attention, got the most people asking about it, got people chasing up to me in traffic to take photos of it.
Wow.
And I'm sitting there driving this car like I love this amount of attention because they're not looking at me, they're looking at the car.
Yeah.
And I think maybe part of my opinion on this goes from like for so long I was the kid getting excited by seeing other cars. And so when I drive something that makes not just like kids, but like teenagers or adults get excited to see,
Yeah.
that makes me so happy because it's like I'm furthering
Oh, yeah.
somebody's automotive enthusiasm.
It's just that
Totally.
it is.
Yeah, totally.
There is something about that.
And automotive enthusiasm, like it's hard for curmudgeons like me and Chris to accept, but like it is, it is not for everyone. It is not the like stay in school classroom poster with like the Lamborghini and Ferrari and 928.
Higher
like,
education.
It is, yeah, higher education. It is
Yeah, I
like
love that.
It is the Maybach, or it is like the whatever, maybe God forbid the Cullinan or something. So
Don't God forbid the Cullinan. The Cullinan is so good.
what if they had designed it? That would have been cool.
They did design it.
I don't know. That's arguable. So
There was a guy in a bright orange Cullinan that sped up to catch up to me in Beverly Hills traffic to ask about the Maybach and said, "How did you get it? I want to have one."
okay, now I can relate to those people that said the attention was bad.
No, but
But
I do know what you mean.
It's just so
I know what
weird.
you mean,
Like,
though.
I just don't get it.
I know what you mean
Yeah.
because it starts conversations about cars where otherwise a conversation about cars would not have begun. I will say though,
It's people saying things like, "Oh, well, I can't imagine driving a car that costs this much money." It's like,
Yeah.
well, that's why you're not in a position to own one.
yeah, I will say that's if anything at all.
And not that
Maybe if they had pulled themselves up by their
I
bootstraps. they
love.
could've-
Okay, here's the thing. So I will say that's the credit to the Maybach GLS is that if anything at all, I actually kind of enjoy discreteness, and so if anything at all, even with two-tone, I think it's kind of discreet because it's not an outrageous shape. It's an
And it's not
outrageous
it's not a Rolls
presentation.
Royce, and it doesn't have a
At the end of
Rolls
the day.
Royce
Yeah,
like thing on it.
Yeah.
yeah. So I kind of enjoy that it is, it is as opulent as it is, but without people like some people notice, some people don't notice.
Yeah.
I will say though that the two tone is fine, except that I thought so. I had to look at up close photos 'cause I haven't seen one in life. But I thought there was a chrome piece of chrome trim that separated the two colors, but there isn't.
No, it's pinstriping. So
It's
it's like
pinstriping.
you have the top color, and then a pinstripe of the lower color, and then a pinstripe of the top color, and then it's the lower color.
Yeah. Okay.
And what's interesting is the top color is actually the base layer of paint. So my
Okay.
car, it had gold on the top,
Yeah.
and you open the door, and the entire door jamb is gold. And
Oh.
I'm pretty positive that is because of the panoramic sunroof, where they have to do the top color as the base coat,
Okay.
because doing a two-tone on top of a sunroof is impossible. And that's
Yeah.
actually when you look at like the Kia Soul or the Hyundai Venue, which are these two little cheap cars that you can get a two-tone roof on,
Hmm.
you can't get the two-tone roof with the sunroof because the manufacturing is so annoying.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Okay. That
Very
makes sense.
interesting.
Yeah.
That's really
Yeah.
That
interesting.
does make sense.
Really interesting. Very cool. Okay, so I had tweeted something stupid about like the McLaren Sabre, and
Right.
you had
The Sabre,
aggressively
as like I like to call it.
you contacted me politely about talking about supercars. So are we still touching on the same topic you wanted to touch on, or was there something else you wanted to add?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, it kind of goes into the same thing. And like as I was just saying, like obviously I am not in a position to spend $200,000 on a Maybach SUV or $3 million on some crazy supercar. And like I mean, hopefully I will, but currently I do not.
Yeah.
I mean, as I said, like the whole reason to move to Los Angeles is to find somebody really rich to get married to. Like that's the end
Yeah.
goal, and then I don't
Yeah.
have to dream up these specs. I can actually have them.
Yeah.
Right.
But I think and you kind of have to do this when you're reviewing any car. Like you have to put yourself in the shoes of the person who is actually going to buy it.
Mm.
Like I am not at all an outdoorsy person. Like that's just not me at all. Like I have zero interest in
I saw you
camping.
hiking on an Instagram story.
Yeah, and it was like the worst day of my life. I mean, it was the end result was fine, but I could have looked at a picture and I was like, okay, well, yeah, that's a nice view. But then, like, I can look at a Subaru Outback or a Ford Bronco Sport and drive that car, and I can understand the features that it has that the people that go kayaking want. You know what I mean?
I saw a Bronco Sport this weekend.
Oh, really?
I saw one
Oh, that's
yesterday.
right, yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I think it looks
Uh,
great.
Okay, I thought so too. I do think I'm not going to get into that.
It's way better than the Escape.
It is, but here's the thing. I like when the Escape and the RAV4 both kind of came out at the same time. I appreciate that the Escape was very feminine looking, and the RAV4 looks like a police interceptor. And of course, people buy the one that looks more like crazy aggressive, like whatever. And the Bronco is obviously from that school of thinking. You know, they're kind of in the same segment, but like one of them is like way more aggressive. It's like, oh, this
But
is gonna
also,
sell.
like, the RAV4 just is better.
Yeah, I know.
The Escape is just not. It's just not
I know. I wish there was like more
I know
softer
what you
design
mean, though.
cars out there.
You want happy cars.
Yeah. That's correct. So we were talking about the McLaren Sabre, and
Yes.
we're not going to go into like way into the weeds on this, but like I am a McLaren sympathizer. I appreciate all the models. I do know all of the models, but like there's like a fatigue that sets in. You know what I mean? It's not that I can't keep track of it. It's like this one, is this significant? Do I have to pay attention to this? Like, is this on the same car in a different dress? And I think the Speedtail is the coolest thing. I don't know anyone would ever buy like a Huayra in the world where a Speedtail exists, but and maybe those are wildly different things, but like the Sabre, it just seems like, oh, this is like a Speedtail and a Senna in one. The people that are interested in this already have one or both of the others, and like that's cool for them, I guess. But it just seems like you're never like I said, and it's dumb, and I'm repeating myself, but you're never gonna have like the impact that the P1 had. I'm not even going back to saying like the F50 or the Countach or something like that. I'm saying the P1 in 2014, like the impact that had on people's collective imaginations. Like I don't know if McLaren's going to have that again, because nothing seems as big as that when they have multiple things every year, or you know,
Mm.
one or two things every year.
Well, so why does I think the only reason the P1 has that impact to you is because McLaren didn't have many other models, whereas at the same time, you have the Porsche 918 and the Ferrari LaFerrari. Porsche and Ferrari and Lamborghini and these other supercar companies are coming out with just as many, if not more, new models in different segments as McLaren is. And yet it seems like McLaren is the only company that people, not just you, but like that people get confused by or have fatigue
But
for.
Porsche, no, I mean, I'm not I mean, I won't say I'm not confused, but Porsche doesn't have anything in that segment.
Right. Maybe Porsche is a bad example, but like
And
Lamborghini
Ferrari,
or something like that.
Lamborghini, I don't pay attention to because I literally found out about the one that's in the Lego set. I literally found out the one that's in the
The
Lego set
Sion.
when the Lego set came out, and I was like, oh, this is a car. But the like Ferrari, okay, the SF90 is extremely confusing to me. No one took the bait when I tweeted this. No one
Okay.
took the bait, but it is a, as far as I can tell, it is a hybrid F8 that costs twice as much as a F8. Is that correct?
Okay. So my issue with the SF90, it's not an issue with the car, it's an issue with the way that the mainstream media
Oh, do not!
wrote,
Oh, don't get me
wrote
don't
about
get me
that car.
don't get me
Is-
started on the lame. I call the lamestream media, but yeah.
Okay, so the SF90 comes out, and I'm not joking. I think even Roadshow said this, and because it was a coworker, I'm not going to say that I think wrote about it. That I just didn't want to get in an argument with people about this at work. But I think pretty much every single magazine and website called the SF90 a hypercar,
Right. Or
and
they,
that is the wrong categorization for
because that implies that it is a LaFerrari successor, which it's not.
Yes, and I think to me, hypercar, it has to have like it has to at the very least be limited run. I think you cannot have a hypercar that is regular production that
Anyone
doesn't
can
have a
get one.
cap to the
Right. No,
production.
we're in total agreement about this, but the SF90 is like twice the price of the F8 that it is ostensibly closely based on.
Right, but that's what I'm saying is like I think everybody started calling the SF90 a hypercar, making
No, I
it
think
seem like
no, you're right. I think that poisoned my view. Even when I dug into it, I was like, oh, it initially came on my radar as like a LaFerrari successor because of misinformation.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, I think you're right.
I mean, I think yeah, sure, like it is kind of based on the same thing as the F8. Actually,
Well, it's not a full
I mean-
carbon chassis.
yeah, no, I actually don't think it is the same basic like chassis setup as the F8.
But it's gotta
basically,
be
it's
related.
its own thing.
It's its own thing, but it's
like a whole segment above that. It's a segment that doesn't even really exist. Ferrari is basically creating a segment to put the SF90 in for that car.
Okay, but
because-
the messaging that it creates to me is like it is, because it is still aluminum based, that is telling me that it is derived from F8.
But what's the problem if it was derived from the F8?
There's no problem. There's no problem. It just seems odd that it's like twice the money, and there's no clear information about if it's like I said, we get trickles of information. We don't get the full. I don't know. It just seems like it's not a LaFerrari successor, but it's not like an uprated F8. It's like this thing that's in between.
See, but to me, I don't think it. I think that the in-betweenness is kind of the point, because the F8 is just this. It's the same kind of mid-engine supercar they've been putting out for such a long time, where you have this twin turbo V8. It's in like the $300,000 ish range. It's like it's what Ferrari has been doing for so long.
Sure.
But then the SF90 comes in and it's bigger and more luxurious, and it has all this weird tech inside, and it's a hybrid, and it's their first all-wheel drive supercar, and it's, to me, this completely different thing that Ferrari has never done before in a full segment above anything that they currently have, that they've like never had something in there before. And I think also they're kind of isn't. I mean, the Aventador is kind of in a weird spot because it's like you have. Aventador and like 720S are kind of in the same spot. I mean, the supercar space is a little weird, but like the SF90 doesn't have any real competitors because there's no other car like that with the power output, the powertrain, the size of it. Like there just isn't really anything else.
No,
like
that's fair. That's true. No, I get that. That's true. And maybe it being derived from FA is not necessarily a bad thing. I just think, I mean, like you said, I think I probably am poisoned by like it was implied that it was a LaFerrari successor. It's not, but also it costs almost as much as $1 million car.
Well, and that's the thing is like Ferrari never said that. It's
Right.
all people writing about it. that
It's the
said that.
mainstream
And
media.
I think
Like
as we kind
CNN.
of
Oh my God.
yeah, exactly. And
Yep.
as we kind of talked about over text, like I think because you were saying things like, well, when this new vehicle comes out, the messaging is weird. How am I supposed to know where it fits in? And to me, when a new car gets released, I mean, even before I was writing about cars, like for my job, I never, if a new car got revealed, I was never going to Car and Driver or Motor Trend or Motor One or Jalopnik for my first info on it. I would go to the manufacturer and I would read their press release about the car and
I
say, what are they saying about that? And I think a problem with some of these higher end stuff is I think partially it's just people aren't writing about it correctly. And I'm not saying that that is your whole problem, but I think that is a problem
no
that
no
exists with these supercars where people writing about them have the fatigue and they're not trying to actually figure out where these cars do fit in the lineup.
I think that is my problem, and I think you articulated it extremely well because
Okay, I
that's
appreciate
right.
that.
No, because that's right. Because with the McLaren, there is a fatigue among the writers, and like I said, I am a McLaren supporter, and they come out with things that I'm like on board. But it's like, okay,
any new McLaren comes out, and people are like, oh, it's just another McLaren with a little more power and a different name. But then it's like, I'm reading through what McLaren said, and I was like, there's all these amazing things about the car, and you're just discounting it immediately because it's just another car with the same V8. But it's
Right.
like, isn't that what companies have been doing for so long? They're just improving what they already have.
It's iteration.
It's just and like, I mean, this is a kind of extreme example, but when it comes to like sharing a carbon fiber monocoque, which is such like an insane thing to already have, but it's like people aren't saying when the new GTI comes out, it's like, oh well, it's just a Volkswagen Atlas with a different body on it. It's like that's the same platform, it's the same engine.
I am on board with you all the way, except a GTI, a new one comes out every like 5 years, and a new McLaren comes out every 1 year. And if you're gonna command $3 million for a car, like it needs to maybe have some kind of lasting impact. Maybe it has to be iconic to some degree. And I don't know if a car that has like a 6-month, let's be realistic, a 12-month lifespan as far as like people caring, if that is iconic enough to command that price.
I mean, I can kind of see where you're coming from, but haven't supercar companies been doing that for the past like 2 decades, coming out with new stuff every year?
But not really every year. And, I mean, even GT3s are on like a 3-year, 4-year cycle. Lamborghinis, they've been making more stuff coming out faster and faster, and no one cares. And
I care.
I know.
But also
as you know, Daniel, I am a Hurricane Performante Nürburgring lap time truther. So
honestly, I am too. So I'm with you on that.
All right, good.
But also, not every model that's coming out is just a slightly better version of the last one that had been revealed. Not every single one is in the same segment, just turned up a little bit. McLaren has like 3 distinct pillars that they're working under
Absolutely.
that are all having different models coming out.
No, I get that. And I just think, I think like you said, I think the communication is not effective. I think the 720S is one of the most like brilliant car, the supercar of the last decade. Like, it is incredible. I definitely appreciate it.
Part of the problem is the names. Like McLaren names fucking suck.
They suck so much.
The number and letter, and I think that's part of the problem is like there's nothing in the name of 570S and 650S that really differentiates the two. Like you don't actually know what the difference is when in reality they are, I mean, yeah, sure, they use the same engine and the same basic like body shell, but they are completely different cars. Like
no, I'm totally on board.
Be a comparison. And I think it's good that McLaren seems to now be moving completely to real names because they've had this problem for too long and it is way too confusing.
Yeah. I mean, I totally understand what the 570 is and what the 720 is. And the problem is, I think the 720, was such a definitive supercar of like, this is the supercar of the late 2010s. And I think they nailed it so well. And then they're like, well, we've improved it. And now it's called 765 LT, which I know that the car it's technically replacing was called 7675 LT. And it's like you built up this equity in this name 720, and now you're throwing it away for something that is ostensibly better, but no one's ever heard of. Like that is a problem. That's a problem.
It's also weird because they use, it's like the PS number.
Yes.
But then it's like we write about it and the horsepower number is different than what the name of the car is.
That's not even the problem.
In the US at least.
That's not even the problem though. The problem is just like building equity in something and then throwing it away. And like I don't know. It's just it's bad, especially because the 765 already starts on the back foot because the 720 I think is established as like a really credible thing. If you said this is the 720 LTR or something, I think that even would be a stronger footing to start off on.
Yeah. I mean, and I think it's also like kind of a separate conversation when you get to the like the hypercar level, really crazy stuff like the Sabre, because that is just such a completely different world from the
Oh yeah,
720S that you
no,
just walk into a dealer and buy.
no, I agree, and I think Speedtail is one of the best names one of the best names of any
Yeah.
car in the last decade, because it's like it tells you what it is. It's inspirational. It's evocative. It's like you see the car and you're like, oh, I fucking get it immediately. That's a
I
true
think
long
to
tail.
me,
It's amazing.
Speedtail to me is the like hypercar supercar that I have been the most excited about since the Veyron came out. And that's a
Yeah,
very big thing for me to say because I am a Veyron stan. Like
I
the
am.
Veyron, that is my absolute shit. There was one at the coffee shop right around the corner from me a couple days ago and I freaked out a little
Oh
bit.
my god, that's so
Um,
cool.
and I think the Speedtail, that car, I haven't seen one in person yet. I'm really dying to. There's a couple in the LA area already, and
Ah,
I really want to see one.
really? On the
Um,
road?
well, because you can get
Yeah,
it in under show and display.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah. Okay, that makes
So
sense.
it's just like the F1 where you can put, I don't know, what is it, like 2,500 miles on it a year, 5,000
Something
miles on it a
Something
year?
like
actually,
that.
something pretty reasonable. Yeah.
But I don't think the government is really like
That's more
checking up
reasonable than
on that
Haggerty.
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean the Speedtail, I mean that is just such a special thing.
I,
And
I know. I
that's another
agree.
thing where people are like people writing about the car are like, "Oh, it's the successor to the F1." And then everyone in the
Mm.
comments gets mad because they're like, "It'll never touch the F1." But then
Right.
you go to McLaren and McLaren is like, "We never said that.
No,
Yeah,
We
pretty
just
yeah.
said
much.
it had 3 seats to be inspired by the F1. We're not trying to make a successor."
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
They even said like it's unrealistic to hit that top speed. We want an overall driving experience. We want the acceleration. We want
Yeah,
Yeah.
this.
yeah.
No,
McLaren
I'm on board.
was
I
like, we
love the
want to,
speed tail.
we want to beat the top speed, but not to like one up. They're just like, we just
Yeah.
want it to be the fastest thing we've done.
Yeah, no, I love the speed tail. I think it's extremely cool. And I am a Veyron fan. Even though I am a diehard McLaren F1 fan, you can obviously love both. And the Veyron, what makes the Veyron so cool for me, what I have had to find myself explaining in like okay conversations and like terrible Twitter arguments, which I don't do anymore, but well, I try not to. Like the Veyron, what makes the Veyron, well, except for this week, I mean, those GM SUVs are pure garbage. We're gonna come back to that,
Yes.
but no, the Veyron, like no one copied the idea
No.
of like, oh, I want a car where I'm in opulent luxury and I push this pedal and I push it down, and if I hold this down long enough for like 19 seconds, I'm going 250 miles an hour. There's no one's ever made a car like that before or since, well, except for Bugatti, and that is so cool. That is so special. It's so unique.
Yeah, and I think with the Veyron too, that car is just so insane. And I think it was like Fernand Piech that said it. I almost said like bless his heart, but I don't really know if his heart needs to be blessed. It was kind of fucked up. But he said something about how like, oh yeah, we want Veyron owners to be able to be dressed up, like fully glammed up,
Yeah.
do 250 miles an hour on the Autobahn, and then arrive to the Opera as if they had just been driving down the road normally.
Oh my
And it's
god,
like
that's so
yeah.
cool.
that's he's like, we want you to be able to get out of your ball gown, out of your Veyron after hitting VMAX and look completely fine. And I think that's so apparent when, and this is, I mean, talking about top speed records is a whole other podcast, but
Sure.
like very briefly, you look at the Veyron Supersport or the Chiron Supersport top speed runs,
Mhm.
and you compare them to the Koenigsegg Agera top speed run. And granted, Koenigsegg did it on a public Nevada road that's a lot bumpier and everything, and Bugatti did it on their like air lesson test track, which is like as perfect as you can get.
Hell yeah.
I think even with that, you compare those two videos, the Bugattis, it just looks like you're just out for a drive. Like
Yeah.
it's so serene and effortless, whereas in the Koenigsegg, it's loud and it's bumpy and the person is like gripping on the wheel for dear life. And I think even when you compare it to the F1, where it's like, yeah, I mean, you can drive an F1 at its top speed fairly easily. It is not like the Veyron. I mean, you
no,
go back,
you would
go
not
back to
want to.
watching,
the whole point, yeah. That it is
yeah,
just
you go back to
effortless.
watching James May on Top Gear when he like did the Veyron top
Yeah.
speed runs, and he's like, it's at top speed, he's like, it's like driving a Golf. He's like,
Yeah.
he's like, I'm decelerating and it seems like I'm going slow enough to just get out of the car, and he's like, I'm doing 150 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Veyron, there's just nothing else. And then another thing where it's like when the Chiron came out, people are like, I can't believe, like, it's so lame. It's barely faster than the old one. They couldn't top themselves. It's like the Veyron was so crazy that the fact that they could even get that much more out of it is
Yeah.
nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they didn't come
And
out with a top speed till like years later.
yeah, they're like, here's what we say the top speed is, but like we're still limiting it, and it's not that much more. And then like also the Veyron, they lost somewhere from like $3 to $5 million on every single one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But as soon as the Chiron started, they were profitable on every Chiron, and like
Oh,
that
wow.
alone is really impressive because
That is.
That is. I had no
because
idea.
it's like they poured so much money into the Veyron that they're like, now we can improve it even more and make it like perfect and
Yeah.
finally make money on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. No, I totally respect the Veyron. I love that it does something unique, completely unique.
Yeah,
It's a really-
okay. So when it comes to the McLaren Sabre, and this is something that Kevin and I were talking about over text a little bit. My thing with that car is like, does it really need to make sense or fit in
Yeah.
with the lineup?
Yeah.
And like McLaren themselves, they're not even putting photos out or a press release about this car. They're like, no, this was like this customer commission thing that
Yeah.
the cars are done, and we're just not even really talking about it because it's this like
So
special
that's the
mild
question.
thing.
Yeah. Is its existence meant to meet an objective rather than to just be an iteration and an evolution in the lineup? And
So where
It's,
where
it's
I
not.
see
So
it,
you're saying is it's not in the lineup.
It's
yeah,
not in the
yeah.
lineup.
Well, there's that. Yeah.
yeah.
That
Yeah,
aspect of
it's
it.
not in the lineup. It's like something just crazy and beyond where it's so McLaren, they have like the Sport Series, Super Series, Ultimate Series, where
Yeah.
Sport Series is like 570S,
Yeah.
Super is 720S, and
Yeah.
then the Ultimate Series was P1, now it's Speedtail and Elva,
Yeah.
and then whatever the P1 successor will be that's like a few years down the line still.
Are you discounting the GT altogether?
Well, the
The
GT,
the GT is a stupid
they
name.
don't have it in one of those. They don't have it in one of those tiers.
Yeah.
And I
It's
agree that
it's a bad name.
the GT is a really bad name. The GT also doesn't make sense when the 570 GT still
Yeah,
exists. But that's
yeah.
a whole other silly.
Yeah, I kind of
thing.
seeing it philosophically replacing the 570 GT in the lineup.
The new Artura, which is like the 570S successor, kind of, that's kind of going to make that problem lesser. And McLaren's kind of moving away from their whole tiered thing.
Have you seen it? Do you know what it looks like?
There's leaked patent images of it, and like it looks really good. It's just kind of it's very evolutionary in terms of design.
I mean, I like the 570, so I mean, I get
I think
it.
the
Like,
570 is awesome.
yeah,
yeah.
it is. Yeah.
But when it comes to the Sabre, it's like, okay, so they're making 10 of them.
hmm
They're all for people in the US. Every single one is a different spec. Yeah, okay, it's like it's the same. It's basically a Senna with a new body on it and more power. And then, I mean, it's more complicated than that because of how cars are designed. But like ostensibly, it really is just like the same platform and everything.
Yeah.
But what I was saying to Kevin over text is like, part of the reason to do these crazy few-off cars, and it's been the same thing with the one-offs that Ferrari has done for the past couple decades and the few-offs that Lamborghini has done. Like, I think this is very much the same thing with like the Lamborghini Reventon, right? So that car came out in, when did that come out? Like 2007, 2008? A long
Exactly.
time ago now.
With the coolest digital gauges ever.
Still the coolest digital gauges ever.
Yeah.
So that car comes out, and to its credit, like this is well before a lot of these companies started to do so many of these few-offs. So at the time, it did feel a lot more special. I think
And you are speaking my language. You're talking to references that are 15 years old. So I'm like, okay, yeah, I
Oh,
get
yeah,
it.
yeah,
I get
yeah.
it. Now I'm on board. Yeah.
And also, when the Reventon came out,
It was different
I was
back
like,
then.
I was like 10 years old, so it was like way more impressive to me because
Yep.
I was like 10.
No, the
Um,
Reventon was cool. I saw one at Pebble Beach in 07.
Oh, they're so cool. But so obviously, like, it's now that there have been a lot more of these like few-offs coming out, that's the same thing. But like that car comes out, and that was literally just a Murcielago with a new body on it. The interior was almost exactly the same. Like that's all that it was. But that was a way for Lamborghini to make a ton of money in a very short amount of time.
Yeah.
Which is a good thing because it's a lot of the times it's very hard for these companies to make a lot of money. McLaren especially, we've seen that this year with, you know, their financial situation. But I think
I to be fair, I don't think they're selling their factory to like out of desperation. I think it's just like a different strategy. Like a lot of companies are like, we're not in the building management business. We're just going to do a lease situation on the build, sell to lease, and it's just going to like focus our business more on what we do.
I don't think it's actually as disastrous as people were saying.
People are really saying it's like the end of the
Like
world.
McLaren's going to be fine. Like they
Yeah.
are going to be fine. But I think what's really exciting to me, and this is what I see when I see the Sabre, where my first thought isn't like, what's the point or where does this fit in or things like that. I see the Sabre as like, okay, so McLaren's designers and engineers were told, we're making this set of 10 cars, and McLaren hasn't said how much money each one is. My guess at the minimum is $5 million each, because
That's the number I was going to go to.
there's so few of them, they're so crazy, and that's $5 million as the base level. Because like the Senna, it was just under $1 million to start. Most of them were like 1.5 million. So to me, the Sabre, it's got to be at least five. So they're getting that much money, and they're getting so specialized. And so these designers, they had to fit into like the US homologation stuff, but they didn't need to worry about, you have to be able to mass produce this car, or you even have to be able to make 500 of these. They were said like, this is what these customers want. Do something fucking crazy that like doesn't exist. And so I see the Sabre and I see all these parts of it, and I was like, okay, that wing is insane, and the front splitter's crazy, and like there's all this weird aero stuff going on. But I'm thinking like, okay, this is a way for McLaren's designers to show off what they're able to do and what they want to do for future models. Because you look at the Reventon, that was so radical compared to what Lamborghini was doing at the time.
Yeah,
But then a few years later,
it absolutely led to
the Aventador.
Yeah.
And so then it's like, oh, that was actually this crazy foreshadowing of what was coming next. And we've seen the exact same thing happen with Ferrari's one-offs. Like Ferrari has had a ton of those one-offs at this point, but like there have been all kinds of cars like that. So it's like, to me, the Sabre, we're looking at it, and then now you look at the patent photos for the Artura, this new small mid-engine V6 hybrid mass-produced McLaren, and there's a bunch of design cues that are shared with the Sabre or coming from the Sabre. And it's kind of a way to like, it's kind of like a concept car where a company shows off a concept car and says, this is what we could do if we had all this future technology and money and stuff.
Yeah.
And so with the Sabre, McLaren is like, well, obviously not all of our cars can cost this much money, but if they could, this is what they could look like.
Yeah, no, totally. I think we agree on most things, and I think you hit
so too.
I think you hit the nail on the head when you said it's a problem with not how McLaren is messaging it, or maybe it is. I think they need to be extra careful with how they message, because there is confusion with their brand. But it is the way that it's written about, and the way that it's like, here's another McLaren model. You know what I mean? Where it's like everyone reports like, here's a new McLaren, just like as if it's another Senna, as if it's another P1, as if it's another, as if they're all equal. And so when the way you said it, like, it is the way that is reported. And I think a lot of the problem is that.
And I think also, to me, like, I'm never going to get bored or annoyed by another supercar. Like, going back to the whole attention thing, like, I love that kind of, I've always been a Lamborghini person way more than a Ferrari person, just because they look so much crazier. And like, when I was growing up, when I would see, I don't know, like a Ferrari 360, I'd be like, oh, cool, it's a Ferrari. But a Diablo or Murcielago would drive by, and it'd be like, holy fuck, that's a Lamborghini, because they're just so much wilder. And so personally, I'm just never going to I don't think I'm ever going to be jaded by just another supercar coming out, because I think they're also fascinating and crazy looking.
Yeah. No, I get that. This has been great. Daniel, do you have anything to promote?
Myself.
Okay. DS Golson on Twitter.
You are DS
infamously.
Golson. You're a social media editor, so
I am social media editor at
Roadshow. So you have social medias.
My main job is to do the Twitter and Facebook and Instagram, and soon to be hopefully TikTok posting of Roadshow by CNET.
My God.
Okay.
What is this, 2021?
Yeah, it is 2020 actually.
Oh my goodness.
Currently it is for another 2 days. But I also
this was
do
supposed
a pretty
to be
good
evergreen.
amount of, oh well, then it's just an ambiguous year. And we don't know when it is. But I also do a fairly good amount of news writing and reviews. Pre-COVID, I was traveling a lot, going to a lot of events, which was very fun. So I'm excited to get back to that sort of thing.
Yeah. We hope you do soon. That'll be good. And hopefully we can come out to LA.
I know.
Whenever.
I know.
Maybe late spring. Crossing fingers. That would be cool.
Yeah. Well, let's hope by my birthday in August.
Okay. Yeah, that'd be good. That'd be good. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the real okay. As long as the LA Auto Show can happen.
Yeah.
I'm fine.
Yeah.
November.
Yeah.
All right.
Good. All right. Well, thanks, Daniel, for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It was very,
Indeed.
very fun.
Well,
I'm still not going to listen to the podcast,
no,
but
no,
this
no,
No,
was
no,
great.
no, no, no.
don't.
Because
All right.
Daniel, by the way, is a longtime commenter, first-time listener
Yeah.
as
Long
of this
time.
podcast.
Long
Well,
time. Yeah.
what happens is I get a
Shaheen
text
tells you when
message.
you get messages.
Yeah.
When
Yeah,
you
I get a
get
text
mentioned.
message that says, "Hey, you got mentioned on New for 96," and I go to that timestamp and I listen, and then
Ah,
I text Chris and Kevin as if I listened and found out on my own.
yeah.
I think that might be a podcast.
I think that's a podcast. Thanks for listening. Do look for us on Instagram at New496.
Send us
And-
an email, perhaps, at new for 96 spelled out
Yes.
at Gmail.
All right. Talk to you next time.
Bye.
Bye.